and he's hoping to stay as coach. Why make that type of call? Why make that type of decision? Our skilled players are taking matters into their own hands because they have to, because they can't rely on solid play calling from a coaching staff that doesn't seem to want to win. I mean, truly.
I mean, yeah, y'all said it all. I mean, yes, we won, but it wasn't a pretty win, and we were struggling to win a game against a team that should have been an easy win. I said it in the tailgate show. We should have taken this opportunity to figure out the kinks in our offense, but really just we kept struggling. And like you said, Gavin, it doesn't surprise me that the defense kind of struggled because they've been the team this entire season. So, of course, they're going to have an off game. But it's just unfortunate that they had an off game against such a lackluster team.
You know, it's really disappointing because we look at this football team. There's talent. There's, coaching experience. There's a 12,000 student body that supports the team, shows up to the games. We care about it here at the University of West Georgia. We expect greatness. Last year's team, we criticized them a little bit. They were an 8-2 team. They left a little bit on the field. They had an embarrassing loss to Mississippi College, but that team had more heart than this team does. That's just point blank the truth. I need to see this team step up, and I need to see this team show some heart and really apply the talent that they already have, because they're one of the most talented teams in the conference roster-wise, athletically. We've seen David Dean win national championships. It's time to apply that here. I know he's on the back nine of his career. I know everything's winding down, but this team has way too much talent to go out there and play to their level of competition. Next week's homecoming, the biggest game of the year. North Greenville's coming to town. They're not as talented as us, but guess what? They're hungry, and that makes me very, very nervous. Now, Sports Pack is brought to you by Printer's Ale. College students who binge drank alcohol at least 3 times per week were roughly 6 times more likely to perform poorly on a test or project as a result of drinking. That is why Printer's Ale has joined Wolf Radio and Wolf Sports Network's Drink Responsibly campaign to remind students that drinking should be done responsibly and in an environment that discourages overindulging. Faculty won't take hangovers as excuses.
In the NFL, only one thing matters: chasing a dynasty.
In one of the biggest shocks of the NFL season yesterday, the Cleveland Browns at home taking down Brock Purdy and the 49ers 19-17 on the back of P.J. Walker, a former Panthers quarterback, a former USFL standout. P.J. Walker showing up, doing his thing. Yeah, he threw 2 picks, but overall he outperformed Brock Purdy and got the Browns a much-needed W at home against the quote-unquote best team in the NFL. So, Richard, are the 49ers, even after this loss, still the best team in the NFL? And even if they are, was there anything yesterday that gives you cause to pause or concern when it comes to San Francisco?
I mean, there are definitely a few concerns of yesterday's game. Now, they faced an extremely good defense. Myles Garrett had his way with the 49ers offensive line. And this is no bad O-line. They have Trent Williams on that front 7. I mean, Trent Williams, one of the best left tackles we've seen in recent NFL history. I mean, he's great. But they just couldn't get it done. I mean, the Browns had a very stout defense. The rain was coming down. Then, of course, when you are in a tough game like this is when the injury bug wants to pop up. Deebo Samuel goes down. Christian McCaffrey goes down. So then it was all in the hands of Brock Purdy. What can you do without all this talent? And it all didn't come together. I mean, they had a chance for a game-winning field goal. He took them down the field to win it at the end. Kicker missed it. It is what it is. The game's over. But I do still believe the San Francisco 49ers team is one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't really think this game changes anything. It just shows this is still the NFL. And every single team is vulnerable. The 49ers showed us yesterday. What do you have to do to beat them? Play outstanding defense, constant pressure, pray for a couple injuries every now and again, and then just hope their kicker misses. The 49ers still had a great chance to win this game. They were about 1.5 inches away from winning it. I still think the 49ers are at the top of the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's no doubt that the Niners are still going to be at the top of the league in a sense. I just think that this game really exposed the idea of Kyle Shanahan's system working for almost any quarterback that goes in there, right? Brock Purdy, once he lost his guys like Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk had a kind of slow game. You saw that Brock Purdy really isn't, what everybody made him out to be last year, in my opinion. And yes, you can argue, oh, well, he played great last year, yeah. but he is in Kyle Shanahan's system, which is built to make quarterbacks perform extremely well. As soon as those guys went down, you saw the true colors of Brock Purdy, and he struggled a little bit, which is okay. After having that much success, you can't really blame him for having an off game, right? Especially after losing all those weapons. A little stat out there for all the stat nerds. The Browns defense has given up 1,002 yards through 5 games this season. It was the fewest out of any NFL team through the first 5 games in over 50 years. So you knew going into this game that this defense was going to play incredible. I mean, it's kind of come as a shock to a lot of NFL fans, especially me, because I had no idea that the Browns defense was really good. I was looking at other defenses around the league, especially like Pittsburgh, in my opinion. Whole team system. Whenever one guy goes down, that's a vital part of how they run their offense. They use Deebo Samuel in so many different ways. They use Christian McCaffrey in so many different ways. Brandon Ayuk is kind of their true receiver. That they had this past weekend, but I think the Niners are just fine. I think the conversation has opened up, however, for maybe there is a new juggernaut in the NFL. What team that is, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think on it, but I think it's kind of in that conversation now. But if they're able to get their guys back healthy,
the 32nd or 31st best team. They're not really even the worst teams. Like, we all dog on, the Patriots. We all dog on the Giants. All of these teams. You saw what the Giants did as well. These guys are the best athletes. Going to be Brock Purdy putting them in situations to win and them capitalizing, because we've seen Kyle Shanahan teams over the years, they always get right there. Can the quarterback get it done? They almost beat Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl if Jimmy G doesn't overshoot a wide receiver. Yeah. We'll have to see if Brock Purdy and the special teams can get it done, because the rest of that offense and the defense I wholeheartedly believe in. Now, a superstar quarterback for another great team struggled mightily yesterday. Jalen Hurts, 3 interceptions as the Eagles fall to the resurgent New York Jets, 20-14. Zach Wilson has outplayed Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes in 2 of the last 3 weeks. The Jets look great. They have Aaron Rodgers out there throwing without a walking boot or a brace on. Crazy. It's unbelievable. They're 3-3. Robert Saleh might be the coach of the year so far. There's so much life being breathed into East Rutherford right now. Richard, is this Jets team a Super Bowl contender? And are the Eagles in some serious trouble?
With this defense, they can contend for whatever they want. They're contending for the division right now. They already have a win over the Bills. Robert Saleh said it best. This Jets defense has been going out there and flat out embarrassing teams week in and week out. Embarrassing quarterbacks week in and week out. They embarrassed Patrick Mahomes. They just embarrassed Jalen Hurts. And Zach Wilson has been outplaying these quarterbacks. Garrett Wilson had what was his breakout game of the season yesterday against this stout Eagles defense. And the Jets defense just flat out showed up. They flexed their muscles. What's his name? Jalen Hurts was under constant pressure. Quinnen Williams was on him. Jermaine Johnson was on him. The entire Jets D-line feasted on Jalen Hurts this past weekend, and it was like the Eagles have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they just flat out dominated him. They were hitting his arm a lot, causing a lot of interceptions. Then once they started hitting him a lot, he was panicking, getting the ball out early, trying to roll out, forcing balls downfield, causing more interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions on the day. Now, A.J. Brown still had a very big game. There was a questionable play call at the end when on 4th down they took a deep shot down the field instead of maybe checking it down to somebody else, just get the first down, find a hole in the zone, other things like that. I don't really know what the thought process was, why they're taking a shot on, 4th and 9 to end the game. I don't know. That's their prerogative. They got some things to figure out on offense. But this Jets defense is stout, it's strong, and Aaron Rodgers is throwing and walking around without crutches, without a walking boot. And it kind of scares me because I feel like he might be rushing his way back. And the Jets' offensive line still is not the best unit in the NFL. So if he does come back in week 12 or just in time for a playoff run, he's going to be under pressure. He's going to have to be able to move around. But I trust that he knows what's best for his body. So if he comes back, this Jets team keeps playing like this, they'll be right in line to make the AFC playoffs and maybe go for a run.
Yeah, I mean, this Jets team, even without Aaron Rodgers, the talent on both sides of the ball is more than enough to get them to a playoff berth. And Zach Wilson, he's kind of stepping it up a little bit. Whenever Aaron Rodgers went down, a lot of Jets fans said, well, this is the end of our season. But truly, if you just give Zach Wilson a very simplified playbook, get the guys open that you need open, dump the ball off, and let your skill players do what they need to do, then there really shouldn't be any issues. And that's exactly what the Jets are doing. Robert Saleh has done a great job of just making everything very simple for Zach Wilson, giving him easy plays to do. And Zach Wilson's even taken a step forward past that and has kind of found ways to extend the play, make some good throws on the run. And it's really impressive to me. But yeah, seeing Aaron Rodgers already walking around, I mean, that's monumental just for the sport and just for all athletics really as a whole. Because now it's going to pave the way, really. You're going to see a lot more athletes, maybe get back to the field a little bit quicker, get back to the court a little bit quicker, but by trusting kind of the procedures that he went through. So I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers came back this year, and if they're in the playoffs, he might be able to lead them to a Super Bowl.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, what a story, right?
Yeah, it would be amazing for the NFL if he came back just in time for them to get into the playoffs. But Brendan, to answer your question, I think yes, the Jets can definitely be a contender for the Super Bowl if they keep playing the way they do, and the Eagles definitely need to get in the locker room and figure some things out because Jalen Hurts tied for career worst with 3 picks against the Jets defense that was missing their starting cornerbacks in Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. So I'm not understanding how a team that went to the Super Bowl last year is struggling against a defense that's missing some of its key components. So the Eagles definitely need to figure something out.
Robert Saleh might be a top 5 coach in the world right now. The way that he coaches that defense, their performance against Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, 2 top 5 quarterbacks, has been absolutely
What did he say?
unreal.
They've been embarrassing elite
Flat out
quarterbacks? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
literally.
Yeah.
And here's the thing with the Jets, right? I picked them to win the Super Bowl in the preseason. As soon as Aaron Rodgers went down, I felt like a dummy. I know it's not his fault, but I was just like, oh man, of course something's going to go wrong for them.
It's his fault.
It's a little bit his fault.
Well, but here's the thing, right? Looking at the landscape of the AFC, all of these teams have flaws. Really quick to touch on Buffalo, that 14-9 win. They are Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They look great overall, but there are some head-scratching performances, like the game in Jacksonville.
I mean,
where
they
they
missed
don't.
a lot of defensive guys, but
That's true, but sometimes the offense, they sputter a little bit. They kind of have a weird relationship with the run game. What are they going to do? There are some question marks in Buffalo. They don't really love the OC out there. You look at the Chiefs. Their wide receiver core is really Rashee Rice and nothing, okay? I have no trust in anyone else. I think Kadarius Toney is probably the most inconsistent wide receiver I have ever seen, maybe since Martavis Bryant in the later years, okay? I'm looking at the rest of the AFC and the AFC North. I'm sorry. I love my Steelers, but the offense isn't there. You look at Cincinnati, they're inconsistent. Joe Burrow's health still a question mark. The Ravens, they'll look great one week and then just have a horrible offensive performance out of the blue. You look at the landscape, Jacksonville's the same way. They're still inconsistent. The Jets have a chance against anyone. They have proven that 2 of the last 3 weeks, and they have a security blanket. If Aaron Rodgers can't come back till January, it's okay because Zach Wilson is playing good game-managing football. He's not making mistakes. And guess what? You don't need a guy that goes out and throws 350 and 3 tutties. You can have a guy that throws 200 yards, maybe 1-2 touchdowns every 3 games. That's going to be enough because Breece Hall is going to the next level. You know what else is next level? Dine West. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at UWGDine_West to keep up on dining hall hours and retail hours. Never get caught missing good food or closings when you're hungry. Now, when we come back, a Monday Night Football showdown for the ages.
Hey, this is five-time Olympic medalist Alana Myers-Taylor, and you're listening to Sports Pack, only on the Wolf Sports Network.
My team sucks and I'm mad as heck. Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. We'll never win if love is in. Goodness gracious, I'm fired up. On Sports Out of Pocket, we're fired up about all the times our sports teams have let us down. And in our brand new segment, Fire Me Up, we're gonna rant about them. So tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. only on Wolf Sports Network.
In a recent survey, almost 53% of full-time college students ages 18 to 22 drank alcohol in the past month. This is why Printers Ale has joined Wolf Radio and Wolf Sports Network's Drink Responsibly campaign to remind you there is no drinking under the age of 21, never drink and drive even if it's just one beer, and add food and water when you drink so you don't end up texting your ex. Know your limits.
It's time for some Monday Night Football.
Y'all ready?
It is a showdown in SoFi Stadium. The sun is shining bright in Los Angeles tonight. We got the Dallas Cowboys favored by 1.5 on the road after an embarrassing loss to the 49ers. Dak, his pride is on the line. His reputation is on the line. You got members of the media calling him a bum, calling him trash, saying he stinks. In LA, you got a team that no one believes in but me, in the LA Chargers with a top 3 quarterback in the game looking to prove it tonight in Justin Herbert. Now, Richard, you're going to kick this off. Tell us what you expect from tonight's game and who will emerge victorious. Dak's Cowboys of Dallas or Jay Herbo's Lightning Rod Chargers?
Jay Herbo's crazy.
I'm gonna ignore that last one. But this is a very interesting game. I've really been looking forward to it all weekend. I wish we could have watched it Sunday night instead of watching what we watched. Anyway, this is a really interesting game because the Chargers have an explosive offense. Now, Mike Williams is out. I'm looking for Quentin Johnson to step up. A few of those other guys from TCU that they have. I cannot remember the name of the other receiver, but he's lightning fast. Wears number 12. I know Keenan Allen. I'm looking for that. But when I continue to look at this Chargers offense, they're extremely explosive. Justin Herbert's having a great year, even though their record isn't the best. He's been balling out. The receivers have really been rising to the occasion. Austin Eckler's always going to do what Austin Eckler does. I see the offensive line. And then I look at the matchup they have in front of them, the Cowboys defensive line. And I know last week they didn't show up, but they played the 49ers, one of the best offensive lines in the league. They got exposed yesterday by the Browns, but it doesn't matter. They took care of business against Dallas. So I know this Dallas D-line is fired up, ready to get after Justin Herbert. So then I think to myself, okay, so the pass rush is getting through, but they're still an explosive offense. So they're going to score some points, but Dallas will be able to get stops. Let's look at this Dallas offense. What has been the main problem with the Dallas offense?
Dak.
Dakota Prescott. So you say, okay, cool. They're going to have to be run heavy. This isn't the best Chargers defense in the world. Every single game they've gotten into has been a flat-out shootout, so you're going to be able to score some points on them. So run heavy. I look for Tony Pollard to have a big game receiving and just flat-out getting carries in the backfield. I look for him to score a couple touchdowns. Some play-action passes, get Brandon Cooks involved, get CeeDee Lamb involved, characters like that. The problem is Dak Prescott. How many times will this Cowboys defense be able to bail you out and stop this dynamite Chargers offense, and will you be able to capitalize on these stops? How often is it going to happen? I'm not sure how often it's going to happen. I don't have that much faith in Dak. I had a lot of faith in him preseason. I thought the Cowboys had a really good chance of being the 1 seed coming out of NFC solely because of that strong defense. I was like, Dak Prescott's going to come back. He's going to improve from last year, this, that, and this. Well, Dak, you made me look like a fool, man. What's going on with that? I don't trust Dak Prescott. I trust their defense. They're going to get some stops, but I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Chargers tonight. I think it's going to be a really good game. It's going to come down to the wire. I look for play-action passes and running game from this Dallas offense, but I think the Chargers are going to find a way to pull it out in a close one, maybe even a nail-biter.
Yeah, looking at this matchup here, I'm seeing one major concern on the defensive side of the ball for the Chargers. Joey Bosa is questionable, and we don't know if he's going to play yet, unless someone's gotten the news and I haven't seen it yet. But I think I agree with you, Richard. I think that in order to limit the amount of times that Dak could just mess it up for them like he tends to do, you're going to have to rely very heavily on the run game. And yeah, play action a little bit, but even then, it's hard to trust him in the air. Tony Pollard is going to have a great game tonight, especially with Joey Bosa questionable. That takes a lot of pressure off of that offensive line. They're going to be able to open up some holes for Tony Pollard to get through. Tony Pollard has been pretty decent this year. I mean, I have him in my fantasy squad. He's been pretty good for me, but he hasn't been scoring as much as Dallas really needs him to, especially with Dak, not really doing as high as some people actually thought that he was going to be. I talked to some; they thought he was going to be like an MVP candidate. I don't know where they are now. They haven't really talked about Dak since then,
Exactly.
But I won't name them. But Tony Pollard's going to have a great game. And with Joey Bosa questionable, possibly not playing, it's the perfect opportunity for Dallas' O-line to take advantage of that. And yes, Richard, I agree. Dallas' defense as a whole is going to be great, continuing to just prove why they're a top defense in the NFL. And it's crazy that Cleveland's been statistically better because I still think that the Dallas defense is more talented. But Micah Parsons, I'm sure, is going to have another Micah Parsons game. But yeah, I'm looking at Tony Pollard to really have a breakout game, possibly score even 2 touchdowns. They're going to have to rely heavily, get him a lot of carries.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be the Chargers pulling this game out. I mean, like y'all said, I don't trust Dak. He just hasn't been that guy that season. I don't know what's going on in Dallas, what's going on with Dak. He needs to figure what's going figure out what's going wrong. He's thrown 5 touchdowns before interception, and his pass completion rate has only been 69%. He just hasn't been that impressive. Also, the Chargers have their running back, Austin Eckler, coming back, and their safety, Derwin James, coming back. So they have key members coming back for this team that'll help them win this win. The only thing that raises problems for me with the Chargers is that they have a struggling pass defense. So if the Cowboys want to win this game, they need to focus on the pass game.
Interesting.
But I don't see that happening.
But when quarterback's the issue,
That's
how
what
is
I'm
the passing
saying,
game
yeah,
going to win?
that's
Look,
what I'm
all I'm
saying, yeah.
saying
That's the
is, if you listen to our intro and you hear my hot take in the very beginning of it, it's not looking too hot right now. I mean, if Dallas loses this game to the Chargers, they're sitting at the same record as my Atlanta Falcons, and all of a sudden Atlanta might actually end up with more wins than Dallas this year. But we'll save that for later in the
Right,
season.
we'll get to that in the debate.
When I look at these football teams, right?
These football teams.
These football teams, all right? On one end, we got the Dallas Cowboys, who for the first few weeks looked like one of, if not the best team in the NFL. I mean, they came out of the gates destroying the Giants. That defense was dominant, scoring like we haven't seen a defense score since maybe the Legion of Boom Seahawks or that 2015 Broncos team. That's how good they looked at the beginning of the year,
Yeah, they
right?
did
It
look
was
really
against
good.
the Giants, though.
Right, and Dak was pretty efficient. You know, last year he had thrown a bunch of interceptions, and going into this year he said, I'm going to have those numbers. I'm not going to throw the picks anymore. I'm going to be an efficient new Dak. At first, it looked like it was the case.
because they were giving them easy plays.
Exactly. But as we can all see now, that is not the case. This Dallas team is incredibly stacked talent-wise. I mean, on offense, Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb, you're going to be hard-pressed to find 5 better wide receiver running back duos in the NFL. The problem is Dak Prescott, okay? The offense as a whole is good. The defense is great. Yeah, they have some letdown performances like the loss against the Cardinals, but this defense is still great. They're not going to be great enough tonight, though, against my guy, Justin Herbert, in SoFi Stadium, getting a big win because I trust the Chargers because of Justin Herbert. I think he steps up in a big way tonight. It's going to be a field goal game, very close, but the Chargers get it done. Book it. Sports Pack is brought to you by Jefferson's. Jefferson's in Carrollton has 20 flat screen TVs, a full bar with 16 draft beers, a covered porch, an outdoor area for cornhole, and more. Whether it's a big game or you just want a chill afternoon, Jefferson's in Carrollton is your full stop for fun. Located at 342 Maple Street, visit their website at jeffersons.com or follow them on Instagram at jeffersons_Carrollton.
Baby, it's college football time. Give me my theme music.
Some disappointing news out of Athens today. Brock Bowers expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a sprained ankle, expected to get surgery on it. Yes, they beat Vanderbilt 37-20. He wasn't used very much, 4 receptions for 22 yards, but looking at the schedule, Ole Miss coming up.
Florida.
Got Florida coming up. You got Tennessee coming up. Gonna start with my one of our 2 resident Dogs fans, Richard. How concerned are you about Brock Bowers potentially missing over a month of football right as you get into the meat of your schedule?
Moderately. I'm going to go ahead and say it real quick. I hate Alabama, but that's actually a nice jacket. I
thank
saw it
you.
during the stage. I said,
Thank
dang,
you, man.
if they had a dog on it. But anyway, I mean, yeah, you were right. He wasn't used very much in this game, and it's because he got hurt. And the Vanderbilt score seemed so close for a while. Ended up being 37-30 final.
20.
It's 37-20 final. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. Anyway, it was 37-20. That was because of the Brock Bowers injury. Because after Brock Bowers got hurt, we were still moving the ball up and down the field. When we get to the red zone, just flat out stall out, have to settle for field goals, just could not punch it in when Brock Bowers went down. And that's moderately concerning. We have a bye week this week, then we have Florida. Florida's been hot. They've had an up and down season. Graham Mertz has rise to the occasion. What's it called? Ricky Pearsall, number 1, the wide receiver. He's been balling out, made a couple crazy one-handed catches a couple weeks ago. Florida has a pretty solid team. They're riding high. They have a bye week just like we do. This is obviously a huge rivalry. Georgia-Florida game is always huge in Jacksonville. They're going to come out ready to play. And we're going to have to do the same thing. Somebody is going to have to step up, whether it's another tight end, because this Georgia team loves to run a lot of 12 personnel. That's with 2 tight ends. Somebody's got to step up, whether it's another tight end like Oscar Delp or whether it's some of these wide receivers. Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett, got out of the transfer portal. 2 guys that really haven't shined like we thought they would. Dominic Lovett had his best game at Georgia last week against Vandy. Can he maintain that? Somebody's got to fill the shoes as the number 1 pass catcher. Will it be Ladd McConkey? He was big on 3rd down a few weeks ago against Kentucky. Will it be Marcus Rosenby, Jack Saint? We have to see it. Or will one of these running backs step up? Dejon Edwards had a huge game last week against Vandy. He had a big 62-yarder to ice it. He scored the last touchdown of the game, 62-yard touchdown. Will it be one of these running backs taking over and we revert back to regular old Georgia football with a dominant run game and the pass game being secondary? We're going to have to see, but somebody on this offense is going to have to step up because Carson Beck's going to be ready. He's showing us that he's a really good quarterback. Somebody from this team is going to have to pick up the slack.
Yeah, definitely. And, honestly, like, I hate to say it, but Mike Bobo might have been happy when Brock Bowers went down because that means that he gets to go back to his traditional run the ball down your throat type of offense, as sad as that is. But I think this makes it actually a lot easier for Mike Bobo. It takes a lot of pressure off of him to kind of feel like he has to be forced to find plays for Brock Bowers to kind of extend the playbook. I think that he's going to get a lot more comfortable and just try to stick to what he knows best. And honestly, it's been working. It's been working a little bit better lately. Yes, Brock Bowers has still been in the mix a lot, but the run game with Dejon Edwards has been phenomenal. I mean, he's really taken off. Going into the season, I didn't know really who our true running back one was going to be, honestly, but he's kind of taken that role on, and he's ran with it, right? I think that I agree with you. We revert back to a old Georgia style, run the ball really well, and then find just a couple open guys for Carson Beck to get the ball out to. I mean, I'm really not that worried. I'm worried whenever we get to maybe the Tennessee game or maybe the Ole Miss game, because Ole Miss, we were talking about, they're a sleeper team in the East, right? I mean, we also have Missouri coming up, who's now snuck into the top 25. They've been having a solid season so far. So yeah, Brandon, it's definitely the meat of our schedule, but I think that Kirby Smart at least has enough in him to figure out a way to win without Brock Bowers. I mean, best tight end in the country, really a Heisman candidate in my opinion, but I think that Kirby Smart has what it takes to get the job done with this squad. I think we have talent all across the board. I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the Florida game, now look, make no mistake about it. I got a Florida jersey at home, okay? I got cousins in Gainesville. They're huge Florida fans, okay? I'm going to be pulling for the Gators that game hard as heck. But they're not going to beat Georgia. Jesus Christ. I mean, Georgia's going to run all over them. Maybe for Florida in a few years once Napier gets more, recruits in there. They're recruiting really well next year.
Third-rated class right now. Yeah, they got a good one coming in.
But he needs more talent. I mean, Georgia's going to run through them. The game that I'm eyeing, November 11th against Ole Miss. That is a game to keep your eye on because Ole Miss, Richard, you've been saying it, can stretch Georgia vertically. They've put up points. The only game they've been shut down is against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Now, yes, the game is in Athens. That's big for Georgia. But without Brock Bowers, you're going to have to figure out a way to move the ball consistently because Jackson Dart plays better every single week. They just had a bye week. They're about to be fresh in this next stretch, going toward the end of the season. They're not going to be in the SEC championship, but they're a team, they're playing for a New Year's Six Bowl. They're playing for a lot under Lane Kiffin. This is an Ole Miss team that I believe and I think is really good, and that's a game, if I'm Georgia, I'm a little nervous about. Now, Brock may be back then because you never know with these injuries. You can come back sometimes before the expected 4 to 6 weeks, but they're definitely not going to want to rush him back, especially when he's going to be a top 10 pick. You don't want to do that to the guy's career. I think it'll probably be about 5 or 6 weeks, which means you won't have him for that game, and I don't know. I'm not going to say you're going to lose. I think it'll be tight, though, and your offense is going to have to figure something out. Now, the game of the college football year transpired on Saturday in Washington as the Huskies took down the Oregon Ducks 36-33, backed by a monster performance from Michael Penix Jr., 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, and as we saw Caleb Williams struggle in South Bend, Penix became the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman comfortably. Now, Bo Nix played a great game, 337 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, but they missed a field goal as time expired, and the Huskies emerged victorious. Gavin, how did you feel about this game? What does it mean in the grander scheme of things in college football? And do you think both of these teams could still win a national championship?
Going into the matchup, we knew it was going to be a great game. We talked about it the entire week leading up to. We talked about it during the tailgate show while they were playing. We were keeping track of it during the West Georgia game. We were kind of huddled on the sideline watching the game on someone's phone, whoever had the highest battery, just because we knew the impact that this game would have on the rest of the Pac-12 and the rest of really college football as a whole. But like you said, yeah, Bo Nix did his thing. I mean, he had 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a solid Bo Nix game, but Michael Penix Jr. took that game over with 408 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interception, but in my opinion, that yardage kind of makes up for it. He really took the game into his own hands. You saw him after the fact. He was being interviewed, really emotional, because I think he knew that was the game that cemented him as the favorite for the Heisman this year. And I mean, man, who would have known, really? I mean, with such a stacked quarterback class, we knew he was definitely going to be competing for it, but he's really propelled himself. This impacts the Pac-12 majorly, especially after USC lost in a terrible, terrible performance from Caleb Williams to Notre Dame. Sam Hartman didn't even play that crazy. It was just Notre Dame got the best of Caleb Williams. He threw a couple picks. This impacts the Pac-12 heavily. Oregon, I think, still stays a little bit up there. They played really well. It's not like they got blown out. It was only off a missed field goal that they lost the game. But Washington is officially taking that spot as the top. I think that they're definitely capable of competing for a national championship. I think that you put them up against a Georgia team, they compete. I think you put them up against an Ohio State team, they definitely compete. You put them up against Michigan, they have the tools necessary to compete. They have every right to be in that conversation. Oregon, I think they still have the talent. They still have some good weapons. Bo Nix is still obviously a Heisman candidate type quarterback. They're going to be sticking around for a little bit longer, but really in the end, I'm looking at Washington to really be in that conversation. I wouldn't be surprised if they get into the playoff.
Man, I think both of these teams are still contenders. They are monsters. Troy Franklin, the receiver from Oregon, is a flat-out beast.
Yeah.
I think he's Belendikov caliber. He could be the best wide receiver in college football. His route running is exceptional. But Washington has some dogs at receiver too. Roma Dunze, a few of those other guys, Jalen Polk. Number two, they've got 2 first-round picks. We saw 3 potential first-round wide receivers on the field on Saturday, along with 2 potential first-round quarterbacks. I mean, flat-out dogs. I think both of these teams are still competing for the national championship. Oregon only lost over a missed field goal, a few questionable fourth downs. They could have won this game. We very well may see a rematch. Now, the Pac-12 still stacked. You still have Washington State, Oregon State, UCLA with a very stout defense. Utah still lurking. When they get Cam Rising back, they're going to be looking to ruin people's seasons. So it's still wide open in the Pac-12, but we could very well see a rematch between these two teams. If both of them win out, we could see a rematch, and then we could see Oregon maybe winning on a missed field goal from Washington. Then it's the case of, okay, can both of these teams make the playoff, like how Georgia and Bama have made the playoff in the past few years, or will one of them make it? I think both of these teams are contenders. They're very evenly matched. I would really love to see another matchup between these two. I don't know, but because the Pac-12 is really tough, so one of these teams might get upset on rivalry week. We might see Washington lose to Washington State at the very end, and it might shake up the Pac-12 championship picture a little bit. Both of these teams are extremely talented. It's going to be tough making it out of the Pac-12, but I can see both of them making it out of the Pac-12, winning the Pac-12, and making the playoff.
Now, looking at both of these teams, first of all, how lucky are we as college football fans with the Red River rivalry last week, a classic game between 2 great teams. Oregon, Washington, another classic game against 2 rivals, 2 great teams. They really mirror each other in a sense because Texas and Oklahoma are both national championship caliber teams, in my opinion. What I saw from Oregon and Washington on the sidelines of the West Georgia game on Saturday was national championship level football. I think there's 10 or 11 teams this year that could win it all. I look at the entire top 11 and I say each one of these teams has the ceiling to win a national championship, with the slight exception of North Carolina. I know they're 6-0, but I still don't see that natty ceiling.
Tez Walker, man.
I don't see that natty ceiling for them just yet, but everyone else, I do. I still think Oregon's just as good as Washington. You win by 3 at home. That's a pick 'em. I mean, honestly, on a neutral field, Oregon probably wins that game. It came down to a missed field goal. We are so lucky as college football fans. I cannot wait for this season to continue. When we come back, our biggest debate yet. What is the future of the Atlanta Falcons, and what do they need to do to get back to a Super Bowl? Stay tuned to find out.
This is Super Bowl champion quarterback Brad Johnson, and you're listening to Sports Pack on the Wolf Sports Network.
Did you miss us? Tea Time is officially back. Hey y'all, welcome to the new season of Tea Time. Our first episode of the brand new season this semester is already available on all your favorite platforms. We have the gossip on all your favorite or least favorite athletes outside of their sport. New episodes come out at 5 p.m. on the first Friday of every month, wherever you listen to your podcast. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, and iHeartRadio. You won't want to miss it.
Did you guys know on-campus dining fits all of your dietary needs? That's right, all of them. Head over to the Grill for a burger patty and the salad bar for a delicious low-carb meal right now. Follow Dine West on Instagram at UWGDine_West to keep up on your dining options. And just know, Dine West has got you covered.
Hot takes. You thought I was playing?
It's time to debate.
Hot take debate. Hot take debate. Hot take debate. Hot take debate.
A team we didn't get to talk about in our NFL segment. We saved them for the grand finale. Your hometown Atlanta Falcons falling to 3-3 after a 24-16 L against the Washington Commanders, really at the hands of Desmond Ridder, throwing 3 interceptions. Yeah, he had 307 yards, but his decision-making at the end of the game was terrible, and it leaves us wondering, what is the future of these Atlanta Falcons, and how can they get a talented roster back to the NFC Championship, back in another Super Bowl? Haven't been in 6 years. I think the talent is there. You look around the rest of the NFC, they could be a few years away, but some changes have to be made. Gavin, tell us first, how can the Atlanta Falcons fix their issues and get back to potentially the mountaintop?
Now, look, going into the year, right, the clear answer on everyone's mind was we had to fix, well, really before the offseason was our defense was not that great. Arthur Smith went out, made some moves with our general manager, forgot how to pronounce his name, but they got the defensive guys that we needed. I say the only slight weakness we have on defense right now is probably the defensive line, just because we have that age going against us with Calais Campbell. Grady Jarrett just recorded his 100th career sack. Congrats to him. I still remember the Super Bowl when he had 3. I was getting hyped for that. But we went out and fixed our defensive issues. Then the next issue was that offensive line is just awful. Quarterback never has enough time. What do? We went out and fixed the offensive line. Then the next issue, the skill position, right? Skill players. We drafted Kyle Pitts 4th overall. We went and got Drake London. We went and got our quarterback in Desmond Ridder. We grabbed Tyler Algier. And then this past draft, we got Bijan Robinson. So then it was like, okay, we've got all the pieces that we need, right? Wrong. Desmond Ridder has single-handedly taken this immensely talented Falcons team and led them to a 3-3 season so far, which isn't too bad, right? Also wrong. These are games that we should have won. That Washington game, we should have won. That was on him. Clutch moments where you need a star quarterback to step up, take the game over, bring it into his own hands, and get the job done. He hasn't done it. You can argue, oh, his stats are great. He's looking so much better. Stats are not everything. Take any quarterback, and if he's got great stats, you can try and make that argument. But if he's not making game time decisions to where he's getting the right ball or getting the right guy the ball when they need it most in dire situations, he's not the guy that you want under the helm. And people are like, oh, he hasn't had enough time yet. He needs more time. He's had a lot of time. Yes, this is his full first season, fully starting. But I said after week 2, I was like, okay, give him some more time. And yes, like I said, his stats have gotten better, but his decision-making has not. First of all, I think the first decision that needs to be made, bench him for a game. Show him that really, if you're not going to make those decisions, then you can't play. We got Taylor Heineke for a reason. We shouldn't act like he wasn't there. He wasn't brought on for a reason. He was brought to this team so that if Desmond Ridder struggles, we have a quarterback that can suffice that and make some plays when we need it and maybe get some wins. I'm past the tanking argument that I had. I had the argument of tanking and losing a bunch of games to try and get a top quarterback, and that's because this quarterback class coming up is so freaking loaded that we really don't even have to tank to get a solid quarterback. I say we just win however many games we win, and then you look at this class coming up, right? Caleb Williams, Drake May, possibly Shadur Sanders, J.J. McCarthy, possibly Quinn Ewers, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Devin Leary, Spencer Rattler. These are all solid quarterbacks that are better than Desmond Ridder and have proven it in their college time. I think that we continue to win. Yeah, another argument I had was, oh, go get Justin Fields, but really, he's proven to be kind of inconsistent as well, especially with this injury he just got. Who knows what the future holds for him, truly. I feel like Chicago's kind of ruining him as a player, as a person in a way. So I think that we have to just take a look at this quarterback situation and say, what can we do to find a way to still win a couple games but get a solid quarterback in this draft, and then our issues will be fixed.
Another great quarterback you can get in this draft is Jaden Daniels from LSU.
There you go.
That would be incredible. But look, I have an idea. Listen.
I'm listening.
What's your idea? Go ahead.
Doing this, the Falcons will be able to fix the quarterback issue, not make a trade and give up a whole bunch of key players for the team, and also keep our top draft pick.
There you go.
Go to Arizona and get Kyler Murray.
Okay,
Listen,
hold on. Wait a minute.
Kyler Murray.
You had me in the first half.
Kyler Murray's hurt right now, but Kyler Murray is an extremely talented quarterback. He's arguably top 10 when he's healthy. Great decision maker, extremely strong arm, dynamic on his feet. Sure, he runs like a toddler that just took his mom's phone, but he can run faster than all of us that are talking about this and listening to it. Let's be real. He's a freak athlete. Cannon of an arm, great decision maker. Kyler Murray is a very good quarterback. Everybody forgets he won the Heisman Trophy. He was the number 1 overall pick, and he has lived up to the hype. He is nowhere near a bust, and this is his last year on contract with the Arizona Cardinals. After this year, he will be a free agent, and it looks like they're ready to move on from him. It looks like they want to start over. So you know what? Let's take him off our hands. Go ahead, bring Kyler Murray to Atlanta. We have a very good quarterback. Like I said, arguably top 10 when healthy. Bring him in. You keep all the key parts from that defense. You're not trading away any receivers. You keep Drake London, who had 125 receiving yards last game. You keep Kyle Pitts. You keep Bijan. And guess what? However you ended this season, if you end with a top 15 draft pick, you still have that draft pick to go get a big-time receiver. We talked about how there were 3 first-round talents at receiver on the field in that Oregon and Washington game. It's not only a deep quarterback class, it's a deep receiver class. So by getting Kyler Murray, the Falcons can keep everything that's on their current roster. Sure, you're going to have to pay Kyler Murray, but you know what? It'll all be worth it. Go ahead and pay Kyler Murray what he wants, and then go ahead and draft another receiver. I hit my mic. Go ahead and draft another receiver. Bring him in. And then you have this offense. You still have Bijan Robinson. Look,
God.
you have this great running back, great young running back, still on his rookie deal. Then you have Drake London. You have Kyle Pitts. See, I'm getting too excited. I'm getting excited, but I feel like I know the Falcons are going to find a way to falcon this whole thing up. But in theory, you still have all your weapons, that great defense. You still have all your draft picks to go get a D lineman to help the pass rush, to go get another wide receiver. I mean, like, come on, man. The offense will be able to open up, get Kyle Pitts involved with a quarterback that you know can push it down the field, and you still have Drake London, Bijan, and the other wide receiver you just brought in. Kyler to Atlanta. Come on.
I mean, yeah, wait. Kyler to Atlanta, yeah, for the first 3 weeks until he tears an ACL again. That dude is so injury prone.
What in the world?
That dude is so injury prone that I wouldn't trust him to take my groceries for me from my car to my house, all right? He'll find a way to mess it up. I'm not looking for Kyler Murray.
Now, listen to this.
Look, injuries are part of the game. We can't predict injuries.
Richard.
You can predict it with him?
Richard.
ACL.
Now, I like where you're going, okay? Because you're not giving up draft capital. That's a big thing. You know, you're getting a star to Atlanta. There's no mistake about that. But I got a cheap option down the pipeline that no one is talking about that can save the Atlanta Falcons. Let's take a little flashback with Arthur Smith in Tennessee. He went out and got a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill that no one believed in, and for 2 years had the best passer rating in the NFL, got them to an AFC championship. Tennessee did a lot of great things with him at quarterback. Obviously, he's falling off now. We can see all of that. There's a quarterback in New England that is getting dogged on right now in Mac Jones that would be an incredible fit in Atlanta. This is why I'm wearing the A, the Alabama A. I'm telling you right now.
I like this.
Make Mac Jones Alabama A and Atlanta A. I'm telling you right now, you put him on the Atlanta Falcons with the weapons you have, with the offensive line you have, with Arthur Smith, you're going to see 2020 Mac Jones make an appearance, and this Atlanta Falcons team would thrive. I know he's struggled in New England, but look at the weapons. Devontae Parker, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, a pathetic list of wide receivers and weapons, the worst in the NFL.
O-line.
Exactly, and one of the worst O-lines in the league. Get Mac Jones to Atlanta, cheap, reap the rewards, Atlanta. Now listen, if you're listening, Arthur Blank, get on a phone right now with Bill Belichick. He's about to get fired anyway, so his opinion doesn't matter, but he's dogging on Mac Jones. The entire organization is. Get him to Atlanta. I am a staunch believer that he could be the savior for your Falcons.
I like that.
I don't like it. Why would you take a guy
like
that's
it a lot.
I like it a lot. Why would you take a guy that's still unproven in my opinion? Yes, you can argue that he hasn't had the weapons in New England, but he's still been under one of the greatest NFL minds of all time in Bill Belichick. You would think by now that he would have found a way to perform just a little bit better. Right now the Atlanta Falcons are slated to get a top 20 pick. Why not go out and get you'd have your pick between 8 solid quarterbacks that could have won a Heisman this year. That makes no sense to me to not go after that.
Do you know why you go out and get Mac Jones? Because we already know he's an extremely accurate passer. He may not
You can say the same thing about guys in college.
Listen, he may not be the guy that goes out and elevates all this talent like Patrick Mahomes does. When you put all the talent around him, save that first round pick and use it to get a great receiver out of college, put him in there with Mac Jones. Mac Jones can distribute the ball.
All right, with all that being said, we are running out of time for tonight's Sports Pack. Let us know in the comments section if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, who is the answer for the Atlanta Falcons? How do they save the franchise? But like I said, with all that being said, this has been Sports Pack for Gianna, Richard, Gavin. This is Brendan. We will see you guys on Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you then.
You are